Mr. Speaker, sir, firstly, I thank the Honourable Manoa for this question on what perhaps is one of the most important and significant negotiations Fiji has been engaged in and has the potential to unlock a myriad of trade, economic and development cooperation opportunities and benefits for our country. But before I do that, Mr. Speaker, sir, in the spirit of friendship, I guess, and the desire to work together expressed by our Honourable Prime Minister, I will give credit where credit is due. Sir, when we had the swearing in, the Honourable Koya nestled over to me in one of the breaks and said to me, "Have a look at IPEF. Make sure you don't take your eyes off IPEF." And I actually listened to Mr. Koya. But having said that, can I just balance it off with a caution to my friends on the other side? They've been saying all along, legacy, 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 and talking about the good things about what they think is their legacy. I will give them a warning, sir. Now, you take the good with the bad. In this session, you will hear about the bad. Let me allow to continue, sir. The Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, or IPEF, for prosperity was first publicly announced at the East Asia Summit in October 2021, launched later in Tokyo in May of 2022, with a total of 13 participating countries that represent 40% of the world GDP and 60% of the world's population. The IPEF is a United States-led initiative amongst founding members, which include Australia, Brunei, India, Indonesia, Japan, the Republic of Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam, to create a new regional grouping for areas of trade, supply chains, clean and fair economy. Shortly after the launch, in May of 2022, Fiji, the first and only Pacific Island nation, was invited to join IPEF to bring the membership to 14. Following this, a series of intense virtual and physical meetings took place to establish ministerial mandates, or publicly known as ministerial statements. The ministerial statements were released on 9th September 2022. Fiji joined the United States and the other 12 partners across the Indo-Pacific region in Los Angeles to launch the IPEF ministerial statements on Pillar 1, which is trade, Pillar 2, which is supply chains, Pillar 3, clean economy, and Pillar 4, fair economy. These are the four broad pillars of the IPEF. Ministerial statements contain broad ambitions of the IPEF initiative and forms the basis for negotiations, Mr. Speaker, sir. It is worth noting that IPEF is not a market access agreement, therefore contains no obligations to reduce tariffs. However, it is a broad economic framework agreement that focuses on closer alignment amongst members of trade and trade-related policies and standards. For example, in Pillar 1 alone, sir, the trade pillar, there are 10 specific areas of negotiations: agriculture, environment, digital trade, labor, transparency, and good regulatory practices, services, domestic regulation, inclusivity, trade facilitation, competition policy, technical assistance, and economic cooperation. As we can see, Mr. Speaker, sir, the coverage of IPEF is highly technical and covers a broad range of subject matters that can have impact, significant impact, on our economies. In response and through a cabinet mandate, the Ministry of Trade, Co-operatives and SMEs has formed a technical working group, including experts from technical spheres such as Obviously, the Office of the Prime Minister, the Department of Environment and Climate Division, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Fisheries, the Office of the Solicitor General, Ministry of Communications, FRCS, FICAC, Biosecurity of Fiji, and the Reserve Bank, and obviously the FIU, or Financial Intelligence Unit. The first IPEF negotiating round was held in Brisbane in December of 2022, followed by a special negotiating round on pillars 2 to 4 in February 2023 in Delhi. Thus, recently, just 2 weeks ago, last week, the second full IPEF negotiating round was concluded on March 2023 in Bali. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is important to note that in every round, there are at least 8 streams of negotiations taking place in parallel, and it is a 7 to 8 day marathon of negotiations, including weekends. All the pillars and subtopics under the pillars have a negotiating text. Mr. Speaker, sir, this requires immense effort and resources and coordination, and a negotiating team that comprises experts and officials and technical advisors. Despite our negotiating team being small in number compared to other parties. For example, in the last negotiating round in Bali, we had a team of 11 officials, the largest delegation thus far. However, the average size of the other larger countries range from about 70, some exceeding 100. Why invest in all this effort? IPEF, sir, is a unique progressive framework that has sustainability, resilience, and inclusive prosperity at its core. IPEF represents immense opportunity for growth, development, integration, and prosperity for all nations in the Indo-Pacific region. Fiji's participation in IPEF negotiations will provide numerous tangible benefits, including increased foreign investment, enhanced trade relations, and economic cooperation with other members of IPEF. Similarly, it will advance our aims under the IPEF 4 pillars. Fiji's participation in these negotiations is not a passive one, as we have had strong influence in shaping the ministerial statements, as the Honourable Koya will know, the negotiating guidelines, which recognizes the different levels of economic development and capacity constraints across IPEF member countries, and makes technical assistance and capacity building integral as part of IPEF. This is important as the ministerial statements will guide the IPEF negotiations. With IPEF being a high-level ambition agreement, we strongly believe that the commitment of flexibility and technical assistance and capacity building should continue to be ingrained in our negotiations. This is why Fiji is actively contributing to the formation of the legal text during the negotiations. In this regard, we look forward to the United States and other parties continuing support in considering Fiji's position, because we are the only ones that are the voice for small island developing states in the IPEF. Mr. Speaker, sir, the parties are not waiting for the negotiations to conclude in order to realize the benefits, and this is one of the excellent benefits from IPEF. We acknowledge the early harvest benefits, such as the upskilling and capacity building initiatives by IPEF members such as US, Korea, and Japan, which will upskill and empower Fijian women and girls in terms of using digital tools, as well as enhancing knowledge base of Fiji's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics field, or STEM as it's known for short. In the recent Bali rounds, Fiji with ASEAN countries presented a paper on tangible benefits, underscoring the type of benefits that could be realized under IPEF. The paper envisages tangible benefits such as upgrades of physical infrastructure related to trade, such as ports, digital infrastructure, systems and processes, and human capital. Mr. Speaker, sir, the negotiations are moving at a rapid pace. After Bali, the third rounds will be held in Singapore in May, following which the ministers will meet as well. It is proposed that the ministers may be able to approve in principle the conclusion of negotiations at least on one of the IPEF pillars. It is envisaged that there will be 5 more rounds after May, leading up to the expected conclusion of the IPEF negotiations in November this year. As we can see, Mr. Speaker, sir, the parties of IPEF, including Fiji, are determined and vested with negotiating and concluding IPEF as an important vehicle to drive economic growth and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region. This will require a Herculean effort on our part, not just by the Ministry of Trade and Cooperatives, but the whole of the government of Fiji. I urge all members to support Fiji's efforts and negotiations of IPEF, as this will be a monumental step forward for Fiji in terms of forging trade and economic alliance with some of the most powerful nations and economies in the world. IPEF will firmly stamp Fiji's position firmly in the greater Indo-Pacific region. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me the floor. Nasa Walev.